Manifestation is driven by imagination, intent, and passion. In our culture, all three have been distorted and disabled by modern media and exploitation. Re-engage your imagination and your passion by entering into the world of paranormal romance. Kahir O'Donnell takes her readers on an exciting journey into the endless possibilities of loving, passionate, and mutually respectful male-female relationship. Her latest book, The Long Dark Night, features special ops adventure, a daring rescue, a psychic woman from the stars, and a special agent that will die to protect her. The Long Dark Night by Kahira O'Donnell is now available at kahiraodonnell.com or amazon.com. The new nonfiction book, Razor of Madness, is similar to cult movies like Clockwork Orange, Dragon's Tattoo, or The Other Side of Hell. Wayne Morin Jr. and Thomas Lee Howe will expose widespread and systematic deficiencies in this thought-provoking tell-all novel. Mind control rages among scholars in law schools. Human rights are ignored while thought reform and mental manipulation are accepted practices used as behavior modification. Dr. Louis Jolyon West comes to mind. Media and public scrutiny shows that United States mental hospitals are in fact destructive murder industries. Razor of Madness expose novel details this epidemic through an in-depth professional and personal investigation. For decades, there has been a revolving door policy that still releases killers and pedophiles back into society. The maestro of mind control continues to haunt America to this very day. Razor of Madness is available in paperback or as a downloadable ebook at amazon.com. The ability to access the knowledge of the universe is much easier for us to access than we may believe. Brad Johnson, conscious matrix communicator, is one of these unique individuals who is able to access a strong connection to the universal mind. Through his connection, Brad has assisted thousands of clients from all over the world through natural intuitive assistance. The intuitive information received is vast, covering a wide range of subjects. Brad's innate ability includes being able to access one's own universal matrix to help them realize their potential to create a life of profound greatness. One-on-one private sessions with Brad Johnson are available to anyone from around the world. Brad is also a proficiently trained psychic, Akashic Records reader, an online spiritual teacher, founder of his own unique and powerful healing system, Body Regeneration Healing, as well as a professional conscious channeler in communication with his own higher self-consciousness known as Adronis. For more information or to book a service appointment with Brad Johnson, visit his website at www.consciousmatrix.com. That's www.consciousmatrix.com. Ever wondered if your advertising dollar is really working for you? If your ad would have been here, you and more than 4 million people would be listening to it right now. Contact ads at xzoneradiotv.com.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and around the world on the X Zone Broadcast Network. Worldwide, toll free 800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X Zone Radio TV. And you can listen to the X Zone live from Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. until midnight. And before and after that, we have refeeds of our best shows that we've done over the past 20-some odd years, free. That's right, free at www.xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour is Benjamin Bernstein. Benjamin hosts iTunes' #1 astrology podcast, This Week in Astrology. In 2014, he was voted Western North Carolina's best astrologer in WNC's Premier Reading Survey. Benjamin is a professionally certified astrologer and has done about 6,000 astrology and shamanic healing sessions with a global clientele. Benjamin has lectured at 3 national astrology conferences and has taught at 2 national astrology retreats. He has written numerous astrology forecasts for Natural Awakenings magazine and wrote the shamanic astrology chapter in the 2013 book Transpersonal Astrology: Explorations at the Frontier. Benjamin is also a shamanic healer who consistently facilitates powerful healings and spiritual awakenings in his clients. He has devoted himself to over 30 years of spiritual practice. His path has included Kriya Yoga, Buddhism, Peruvian shamanism, and San Pedro plant spirit medicine. Joining me now is Benjamin Bernstein. And Benjamin, welcome to the X Zone. Great having you with us.
Great to be here, Rob. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
My gosh, you've done so much. Are you sure it's only taken 30 years?
I believe that's about right.
My gosh. What started you on your voyage, your quest, your journey?
What got me on the quest?
Yeah. What started you on your quest?
Actually, it was all very synchronistic. Let me mention I'm getting some weird feedback of my own voice, and if there's some way to tone that down, it'll be easier for me to hear you.
Unfortunately, that's not on our end.
Okay, I will. I'll make do. I actually moved here to Asheville, North Carolina in 2001 in order to be a singer-songwriter. Okay, I think I just figured out the issue. Thank you. And what happened was nothing went the way I thought it was going to. I did not make a good career of being a professional musician, but I synchronistically started getting interested in astrology a couple of years after I moved here. By the time I was ready to throw in the hat as a professional musician, I was ready to hang out my shingle as an astrologer. And from there, one thing simply led to another. I was starting to make some money as an astrologer. A friend asked me if I wanted to attend a shamanic plant spirit ceremony. I did that. That rocked my world in a huge way. And as I began to work more intensively with plant teachers like San Pedro and ayahuasca, it transformed me. And ayahuasca herself eventually called me to be a shamanic healer in one of the ceremonies. And so one thing has sort of synchronously led to another. All the things I'm doing now that I love the most are things I never had planned in the first place. So it's like I've sort of surrendered and gone with the flow, and I'm trying to really be guided by my internal wisdom as opposed to trying to figure it out from the Benjamin level.
What effect or what use is ayahuasca when it comes to the shamanic way?
For me, it's been incredible. Ayahuasca is an incredibly powerful plant spirit. I thumbnail her by saying she's like a vast, hyper-intelligent, multidimensional awareness that extends everywhere from the physical tea you drink in ceremony to absolute divine union. And when you commune with her in ceremony, she can speak to you, she can open you to other dimensions of consciousness, she can give you profound healings. I've heard many people comment that they felt like they got more healing in a single night ceremony than they got in like 5 years of psychotherapy. Wow. So it's very experiential, it's very intense. I definitely recommend people only think about doing ayahuasca if they're really called to it and really willing to face whatever is going to come up in the process. But for me, it's been, the most powerful healing and awakening path I've ever walked. So for me, it's been a profound life changer.
Going through your bio, you have some very impressive achievements. You host iTunes #1 astrology podcast. You were voted #1 astrologer in Western North Carolina. How did you accomplish all this?
I just sort of kept going. I started my podcast, just at the beginning like anyone else, but I just kept doing it every single week. I did it the best I could. Astrologically, I have a Virgo moon, which is all about constant refinement and upgrading. So anytime I thought of a way to make it better, I would just make it better somehow.
Good for
and
you.
Just that sheer persistence over a number of years. The podcast has been going now for 8 or 9 years. And you just keep doing it. You keep doing it the best you can, make it better and better, and it just gets quality over time.
See, I appreciate people like you who do not give up.
Well, what I do is my life's work. I'm really privileged that what I do for a living is what gives me the greatest joy. I can honestly say my work is the biggest fun I have. So to be able to have life purpose and career be the same thing is just an exceptional privilege.
I've been doing this show for a number of years, and I've never heard of shamanic astrology before.
That is sort of a specialty, and I should mention there are other people who do shamanic astrology, and they all mean something different by it.
Okay.
So what I'm going to say about it is only the way I do it and isn't meant to be universal. But what I do is, in the context of a reading, we will do the usual Western astrology thing. We'll look at the chart, we'll analyze what this planet means in your life, but then we'll go a step further. We'll say, this planet is a living being. It's an actual consciousness, and we can talk to that planet and ask it to behave differently. As an example is, let's say someone has a Neptune-Sun conjunction in the chart, which on the low side could express as excessive use of drugs or alcohol, excessive escapism. It could be playing the martyr in a relationship or feeling kind of drifting and aimless. But that exact same Sun-Neptune conjunction can be taken to the high side and used for deepening your spiritual awareness and for really powerfully letting your creative inspiration come out in your life. And the principle I've always used in astrology is if you keep a planetary force or a planetary combination busy on the high side, it doesn't have as much energy left over for the low side. So my premise is there's nothing inherently good or bad in astrology at all. It's just raw material. And that's why I say I'm a little bit more of an educator than a predictor. I'm not going to tell someone this exact thing is going to happen in your life. I'm going to tell you, here's the raw material. Why don't you partner with it and get the result you prefer?
That's a rather unique approach to astrology. Because most people go to astrologers and they want everything handed to them. And I agree with you. Here's the raw material. Go out, work for it, and make it work for you. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm not really unique. I know lots and lots of astrologers who have a similar approach that I do, and it's becoming more and more common. So thankfully, more and more astrologers are working in this more collaborative way and understanding that it's really about educating the client, not just laying a hardcore concrete prediction on them that may or may not happen.
Benjamin, let me ask you this question, speaking about planets. When Pluto was downgraded from a planet, did that affect anybody's astrological chart?
Nah, it just pissed Pluto off.
I love that.
No, it made no difference in the interpretation.
No,
Pluto's been observed for many decades now in astrological charts. It works a certain way, and if the astronomical union wants to change its classification, it has not in any way changed its functioning as an astrological force.
Let me ask you this follow-up question then. If Pluto has been used as an astrological object for how many years in charts?
Well, it was discovered around 1930,
Yeah.
So we've got about 85 years of experience interpreting Pluto now.
So what happened before Pluto was discovered?
Well, we work with the planets we have. For most of astrology's history, we used just the planets out through Saturn because they were the only ones we knew about.
Right.
And then around the time of the American Revolution, all of a sudden we get telescopes that can see further, and oh my God, there's this planet Uranus. And what does that mean? And then Neptune was discovered after that, and then Pluto. And what happens then is, some, and I would say most Western astrologers have chosen to bring those planets into the horoscope and use them. And through observation, like you said, I've done about 6,000 sessions, and those are very powerful planets. They profoundly shape the personality, and I couldn't imagine not using them. There are still some astrologers who do not use them, like, Vedic astrologers traditionally only use the planets through Saturn, for example, and they do very good work with the system they have. I respect all the astrological systems because they're all based on many, centuries of observation, usually millennia.
Right.
And they've been watching the sky enough and watching the effects that their system is going to work, whether it's Mayan or Chinese or Vedic or Western. But I have observed the outer planets to be extremely powerful, and that's why I pay a lot of attention to them in the natal chart and in the transiting charts as well, when they're moving around and affecting things.
What is the
I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. What is the origin of astrology?
Every indigenous culture on the planet has had some form of astrology, and there are hundreds, if not thousands, of varieties of it. Most of them not very well known. But astrology is simply, before there was TV and artificial light, what did people do at night? They looked up at the sky, and they noticed that they identified, in astrology, planet simply means wanderer. And the sun and moon are considered planets for that reason because they move in the sky.
Right.
So they watch over periods of years, of decades, of centuries. They pass their law and say, hey, when these two planets come together, these kind of things tend to happen. We've watched it for a long time. So basically it's sky observation, observing correlations between the planetary patterns and what happens in the world. And each culture, with its own unique perspective, creates a scheme out of that gives meaning to those movements.
The one phrase that I've been taught by many astrologers over the years doing radio is, when something goes wrong, they'll say, Mercury's in retrograde.
That's funny. Even people who don't believe in astrology seem to believe in Mercury retrograde somehow. And, that it's easy to throw that off there, but Mercury retrograde isn't a bad thing either. It is true because of what Mercury represents. For example, it represents transportation, is one of its core meanings. So when it's going backwards, travel plans can get messed up a little bit. Mercury is about communication, and therefore that affects computers and the things we now use to communicate. So often technology and travel do get a little glitchy during a Mercury retrograde. But we have to remember what Mercury retrograde is good for is reflection. Thinking, being more contemplative, interior, talking less, listening and thinking more.
Right.
And if you use Mercury retrograde for its intended use, then you can have a great time with it. By the way, Mercury retrograde is also a fantastic time to make repairs or, complete projects that were already begun.
Now, how in the way you do astrology, are there still the 12 houses like Taurus, Capricorn, and the others?
Yes, except what you just named were actually the signs. The houses are a different system. When I do a horoscope, the outer ring is the signs you just mentioned, but inside of that are different 12 sectors that are what are called the houses, the 12 fields of life experience. So I do use houses. There's in Western astrology, like 30 different house systems. Mine's called Porphyry, and it's worked for me over the course of my career.
How do you incorporate astrology with your shamanic healing work?
I can flow pretty easily in and out of my modalities. For example, I sometimes will have clients call me and say, oh my God, you do this, you do that, I don't know what to ask for. And what I'll ask them first is, okay, are you more interested in gaining understanding of what's happening, or do you have something that needs to get healed? And that, of course, will tell me, do we need to start with astrology or start with shamanic healing? But often we'll begin with the astrology, and of course astrology is an incredible analytical tool, and it's so good at getting into what's going on in a person's life, what the soul blueprint is, and it becomes pretty quickly apparent through my conversation with the client where they're on track with that and where they're not. And often with my shamanic sensitivity, I can go, okay, you've got this energetic block here that is interfering with this high side expression of your chart. Would you now like to take a few minutes and let's set the astrology aside and let's actually clear this sticking point in you energetically that's getting in the way? So what I love about the combination of astrology and shamanism, astrology is great for the analysis and the diagnosis of what's going on. And then you can switch over to the energetic modality of shamanism to actually clear it at the core level.
Now you say that clients who are in the most extreme crisis are often poised for the biggest breakthroughs. How do you...
Absolutely.
Can you tell me more about that?
Well, I've seen it over and over again.
Yeah.
I remember distinctly a client who was here just 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they came in and described how their life was totally falling apart, and I just smiled and said, that's so wonderful. You're ready for the breakthrough. And they thought I was joking, but then 10 minutes later, I led them through my invocations, and they actually broke through to this amazing state of peaceful spiritual awakening. I said, oh, that's what that was for. The reason that crisis is so helpful in the breakthrough is because if your life is just coming along great and you're all comfortable and everything, you're not going to change. You're going to flow with what you've got. It's only when your life gets sufficiently disrupted and the status quo becomes sufficiently intolerable that you're going to be open to a significant change. And that's when you're ready for the breakthrough. And that's why crisis is such a wonderful setup for a breakthrough. I hope that makes sense.
It certainly does, because I use an analogy that you can't have success without failure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Failure is just a learning opportunity. Oh, I can do this better next time. I learned that way to do it wrong.
Exactly. And for some unknown reason, people who try and at the first sign of failure, they give up so easily. And the lesson is just beginning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the perseverance that makes the mastery. Yeah.
Can you tell me how your astrology could help people in their day-to-day lives?
Oh, yeah. Astrology addresses literally every facet of human life. I frequently am asked questions about career. Am I doing the right career? Why is my career in crisis right now? And I can look at the chart, and I can look at the houses, the little sectors of the chart that are career-specific. I can look at the moving planets. Okay, you've got these planets affecting these career houses right now. That's why, for example, if you got Saturn in your 10th house, he's usually going to bring up obstacles and challenges.
Right.
So I can tell them not only if they're even doing the right thing based on the chart. Now, the chart doesn't say you should be a system software engineer, but it might say you'd be well inclined for technology and high tech, right? So I can give them the flavor of the career, and I can also tell them when big times of opportunity are going to be in career and when the big challenge times are going to come up too. So I can give them this wonderful information. Does this mean I should bail now? Or does it mean, as I look at the chart, just hang out 6 months, this challenging energy will move along and things should clear up and be easier from this point forward. So those are some examples of ways in which astrology can be helpful. I use career as an example, but same thing, whether it's romance or spiritual path or whatever field of life you're interested in learning about. It's all expressed in the astrology because it's a complete soul blueprint.
Over the years you've been doing astrology and shamanic work, have you seen a change in the people that are coming to you? Are they coming for different reasons than they were when you first started? Does society play a major role in why people seek astrological advice?
It does, and now then again, my clientele is not typical. When I first opened my practice, I told the universe I want people who are working on themselves. So I don't get a lot of people who are just looking for a fortune teller. And when I tell them I can't give them a concrete prediction, they say, good, I don't want that. I want to know how I can work with this consciously.
Right.
What I'd say the biggest change I've seen is I'm getting fewer clients who are just saying, oh, God, I'm in relationship crisis or I'm in work crisis. They want to know how can I deepen my spiritual connection. I'm getting more and more people who are already awake spiritually, and it's getting surprisingly common. And I work with people not just in Asheville, North Carolina, where I live, but I work with clients all over the world. And it's so encouraging to see so many people now who are so awake and are so in touch with their real spiritual core already. And it's so fun to work with people at that level where they're already having some consciousness and they comprehend where I'm coming from when I start helping them move into higher dimensions of consciousness.
In your opinion, based on the work that you've done over these years, what type of spiritual awakening is humanity facing? What I perceive happening is a global awakening. I can foresee a day in the not too distant future when everyone on the planet will be spiritually awake, and that will just be the new normal. It used to be a couple of decades ago, it was a huge deal if you heard of some guru in India who was actually enlightened. Yeah. I literally know personally dozens of people who are just flat out spiritual awake. And it's not a big deal. And what I perceive happening is we're coming out of about 5,000 years of, hierarchy, masculine dominated dark age. And the feminine is rebalancing itself. It's not going to be feminine dominated, but we're going to rebalance the masculine and feminine again, which is happening already. And all the crisis that's crazy on the planet right now, I think a lot of it's to do with the fact that we've got a Uranus-Pluto square going, just like we had them together in the 60s. And so it's a time of tumult astrologically anyway. But I also know that in order for the light to fully penetrate everything, it's got to purge all the darkness. It's like the zits have to be popped. So we see all these, crises and really difficult situations coming up on the planet, but it's all coming up to be cleared. It doesn't mean it's just going to go on forever. It's like the last vestiges of the darkness are now being exposed and purified through playing themselves out.
But I have no doubt in my mind that the light is already triumphant, and that it's just a matter of time before more and more people come to this peaceful state in themselves. And once you're peaceful inside, you have no desire to create anything other than peace in the world around you.
Do you think that this new spiritual awakening will have any major effect on the established religious philosophies?
Yes, it already is, actually. I'm encountering more people who are like, mainstream Christians and such, who are really more open to the idea of the Christ consciousness in themselves, for example, and not just looking to an external force to save them. I believe the mainstream religions will sort of modify to, if you look at the real teachings of all the spirit teachers, whether it's Muhammad or Jesus or Buddha or the Vedic religions, it's all about the peace inside you anyway. It's just gotten distorted sometimes as the structures go up around them, and the human desire for power and control sort of dominates and overshadows the original message. But all these religions are now becoming more cognizant of the truth of the original teacher, and I do see the religions slowly, and sometimes not so slowly, re-embracing the core message of unity that's really at the core of them all anyway.
Is it possible that the established philosophies have outlived their purpose, and that in order to progress to the next step of our spiritual evolution, we must say goodbye to the old and welcome in the new?
I think that's a constant process. Absolutely. They don't all have to be. You don't always have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. I love Ken Wilber's idea that even with someone who seems completely abhorrent and just demonic, they're still a little bit right about something. Yeah. So I believe the truth in anything you look at.
Right.
And I believe that some philosophies that are clearly really out of step with the new reality will just fall away and fade out. And others that have enough of that new reality in them will be able to transform and adapt to embrace it. If you look at the history of religion across the world anyway, over its development in mankind, religion is never static. It always evolves. It's always transformed by the culture it encounters, and it never stays static. So religion will continue, as it's always done, to evolve, to transform, to adapt to the new higher vibration realities that are coming in.
All right, Benjamin, please stand by. You and I have to take our commercial set at the bottom of the hour. Exonation, Benjamin Bernstein is our special guest. www.astroshaman.com. That's www.astroshaman.com. And we'll be back after these messages from our dear sponsors as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and around the world on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Don't go away.
Ever wondered if your advertising dollar is really working for you? If your ad would have been here, you and more than 4 million people would be listening to it right now. Contact ads at xzoneradiotv.com. Do you think you have energy problems in your home? Do you feel better when you're away than when you're home? Joey Korn is a global leader in the world of dowsing who specializes in personal energy clearing and space clearing. He can help you create an ideal energy environment in your home no matter where you live in the world. Learn about his remote spiritual house cleaning services and much more at www.dowsers.com. You can get Joey's book, Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment, as well as other dowsing books and tools, Kabbalah books, and Walter Russell books. Joey's work is really amazing. Go to dowsers.com right now. That's DOWSERS.com or call 1-877-DOWSING. That's 1-877-369-7464. Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the esoteric series, modern esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com.
Secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
One Florida drug dealer made a serious mistake when he dared peddle his poisons on the schoolyard of Robert W. Morgan's preteen daughter. Morgan, a budding film director, tracked him to his hidden Everglades lair where his meth lab mysteriously blew sky high. When Morgan's demands to police to make grammar school playgrounds safer from drugs were ignored, he sought the counsel of CIA operative Frank Sturgis. Again, he was warned to give up what was becoming an obsession. Instead, Robert used his reputation as a filmmaker to infiltrate the mafia by stroking their egos and offering to make films for them offshore so they could import them as foreign product without paying taxes. When they agreed to build him a studio in Panama, Robert called the DEA and FBI and offered to work undercover. In time, their combined efforts revealed how the mob was secretly laundering billions of dollars through the Vatican Bank in Rome before returning to the States as foreign investments. Now read Morgan's story, Citizen Spy, Vatican Cover-Up, The Mob, Money Laundering, and Murder, available at Amazon.com, BN.com, and Borders.com.
My name is Michael Telstar, Canada's leading mentalist from Toronto, Ontario.
Hi, my name is Splenda, and you're listening to my dad, Rob McConnell, on the X-Zone.
This is Psychic Dorothy from St. Catharines, and you're listening to Rob McConnell.
Hello, my name is Holly Reeves, an astrologer from Astro For You, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X-Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Welcome to The X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My guest this hour is Benjamin Bernstein. He is an astrologer. He is a shaman, and his website is www.astroshaman.com. Benjamin, thanks so much for being with us. Great talking to you. If we could we go to the deep jungles where you actually took this what is it, a herb? Is it a mixture?
Well, ayahuasca is actually a combination of two plants. It's the vine is called ayahuasca, and it's combined with a leaf called chacruna. Mm-hmm. And chacruna contains DMT, which is a naturally psychoactive substance. The human body actually makes it itself during times of extreme crisis like birth, death, childbirth, etc.
Right.
But the problem with DMT is if you just ingest it alone, the body will neutralize it within seconds. What the ayahuasca vine does is it acts as an MAO inhibitor and allows the DMT to remain active for hours and hours. And thus, when you do an ayahuasca ceremony, you'll be under the influence very strongly for 5 to 6 hours, and then it just slowly fades over the hours after that. So that's a little bit about the chemistry of it.
During one of these ceremonies, what do you go through? What is the physiological changes that goes through your body?
It's always different. The thing about, I've done ayahuasca ceremonies about 75 times.
Wow.
And it's never, ever been the same twice. Again, as I mentioned earlier, you're working not just with a chemical, you are literally working with a conscious being that is ayahuasca, who exists in the inner world, and drinking the tea brings you into communion with her. And basically, the first time you drink her, she knows everything about you. The first time I drank, I could feel the medicine moving through every bit of my body, kind of scoping me out and learning about me. And from then on, I've had some ceremonies that were very somatically challenging, where the body like your somatic intensity gets turned up to 11 on a scale of 10. I've had ceremonies that were the most incredible ecstatic bliss I've ever experienced in my life. I've had ceremonies that were so challenging because I was facing such massively difficult inner material that it was really arduous to get through. I can remember ceremonies in the jungle where after an hour I was just exhausted. I had nothing left, and I just sort of had to just sit there with nothing left in me and let the plant spirit and the shaman do what had to be done for me. So it's a very wide range, and sometimes it's some of that all mixed together in the same ceremony. It's definitely not a recreational experience. This is very serious medicine. It is medicine for healing. It's medicine for awakening.
Why 75 times?
Because I keep getting benefit. I have a very practical astrology chart, lots of Capricorn, lots of Virgo. If something isn't benefiting me, I'm not going to keep doing it. It's certainly not because it's addictive, because it's anything but. There's times when it takes every ounce of will you have to force yourself to drink it again because the last ceremony was so challenging. But what I've observed over time is that the reason I started working with plant spirit medicine was because I had been following spiritual paths for decades and had never really been able to experience my divinity, which we all have. It's our birthright. And nothing I was doing as an ego-based practice was getting me there. And all of a sudden I discovered if I take San Pedro or ayahuasca, me drinking that is giving the plant spirit permission to punch me through to these other levels, and I'm going to go there whether I want to or not. When you're drinking a powerful brew, if it's a very powerful medicine, you're going to move into those states, and there is nothing you can do to resist the process. You're on the roller coaster, you strap it, and you go. So I needed that kind of dynamite cap to bust me through the places where my need for control at the somatic level would not let me go voluntarily. Now, over time, I got to where I became more comfortable in those levels, and now I walk around every day in what would have passed for a radical altered state a few years ago. But over time, the beautiful thing about ayahuasca is the states of bliss and ecstasy and flow that I used to only get to in a ceremony are my daily reality now. So the long-term effects do lock in over time. And the weird thing about it is each time I do ceremony, I need less. They say they're shamans who have done a lot of ceremonies. All they have to do is sniff the bottle and they're back in the inner world.
Wow.
They don't have to drink the ayahuasca. And the shaman I work with is actually giving me less and less medicine each time I drink now, and the effects are still very strong.
What is the inner world like?
The what like?
The inner world.
Oh, sadly, it's actually beyond verbal description, but there's a great spiritual teacher named Adyashanti. So I'm about to describe awakening, which cannot be described, so I know I'm going to fail, but I'll fail as well as I can. So I proceed in that spirit. The inner worlds make you realize the physical reality most people think is one grain of sand on a beach miles long.
Wow.
There are more dimensions in the inner worlds than you can even be aware of. The universe goes into infinite dimensions infinitely. And what my experience has been over time is what ayahuasca has allowed me to do is progressively, when I'm ready, move into the next level of awakening to what I am, which, I would thumbnail it as I, like everyone else, am the entire universe and all the dimensions of consciousness. It's, my perception is it's all God, all the time, everywhere. Everything, everyone is just all God.
Well,
the physical world is just a denser aspect of that. Yeah.
I agree with you that everyone is God, because in the book of Genesis, it gives you that, it tells you that you're God, because if God created you in his image, his likeness, then you are God.
Right.
Like, what is so hard
Good
for
point.
people to understand?
Right, and more people are getting that now, not just through a belief, but through the experience. And the beautiful thing about plant teachers like ayahuasca or San Pedro is they can escort you into that knowing. They can actually help you merge into that reality. And I'll hasten to add, I know a lot of people who are very spiritually awake, and they've tried ayahuasca, it doesn't do a thing for them.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, and so some people don't need it. Some people are already to the places where others need ayahuasca to get them to. So for those who it's helpful for, it's incredible. But I also want to just readily admit that there's some it's just not the right medicine for. And so it's not the panacea for everyone. What I tell people who are interested in ayahuasca is three things. A, do not even consider drinking it unless you, A, feel really called to it within yourself. B, unless you're ready to face the most challenging, intense psychological material in your subconscious with no way out except through, which may take hours of a ceremony. And 3, don't drink it unless you are in a ceremony being handled by a very competent and very high vibration shamanic, practitioner who's trained as an ayahuasquero, not just someone who got some ayahuasca. It's just too powerful. It's too strong to trust to someone who hasn't had the years of training in the jungle that are needed for them to attain the mastery needed to facilitate a ceremony like that.
I remember seeing a special on CNN about the ayahuasca. I don't know when it was, this year or last year. But apparently it's turned into quite an industry in that part of the world.
It is. Ayahuasca tourism is big business in the Amazon and all of South America now. And it's not just there. There's now ayahuasqueros traveling all through the United States undercover. I mean, technically, one of the foolish things of our current laws is that ayahuasca is classed in the same category with heroin and cocaine, when in fact it's the very medicine that could heal people of those addictions. One of the first things ayahuasca does is if there's an addiction in you, whether it's alcohol or anything else, it will purge that spirit from you so that the addiction is gone. So, if you do ayahuasca in the United States, you just have to be discreet about it and kind of only tell people who need to know kind of thing.
How would you know? Like, obviously, you are well-versed, you're experienced, you know where to go, who to listen to, who is a high, which shaman has the ability to take you through this inner journey. But how would anyone who doesn't have the experience that you have know who to trust, who not to trust?
Good question. Well, first, if they themselves have any sensitivity around that, if they can read vibes of people, that would be the place to start with their own inner guidance on that. But beyond that, just on a practical level, if they're intrigued in doing ceremony with a shaman, get some referrals. Find people who have drunk with that shaman and see what they say. And, as you listen to these people, what do the people themselves feel like? Are they, what I've observed with the people I know who have been drinking ayahuasca for many years, and it's part of their path of awakening, they become more open-hearted, they become more compassionate, they become more responsible, they become more radiant, they improve in every way as a person. It's the total opposite of the arc of a drug addict who just, goes down the spiral. The people who drink ayahuasca regularly actually go in the opposite direction. So the people who you've been asking about the referrals, are they the kind of person you want to be? Would be another way to think about that.
Exonation, my guest this hour is Benjamin Bernstein. His website is astroshaman.com. And I'm sorry for cutting you off there, but there was a little bit of a gap, and I wanted to get your website in there as many times as I could. I understand that you host a shamanic awakening ceremony a few times a month. Tell me about that.
Yeah, right now it's on first and third Tuesdays, and it is mentioned on my website. What we do there, I sort of thumbnail it as it's like an ayahuasca ceremony without the ayahuasca. So it incorporates two primary modalities. The first is invocations, which is my favorite thing to do with people, because it may sound insane to hear me say this, but most people, if I guide them with these invocations, they can literally be in an awakened state, often for the first time in their lives, within 10 or 15 minutes. It literally is as simple as asking the part of you that's already awake to bring that consciousness to you, and passively breathing and allowing it to happen is all it takes anymore. The veils have gotten so thin between the spirit world and the physical world now that, what used to take years of grueling sadhana on a really disciplined spiritual path can now be attained in minutes by asking for it.
Do you think that veil
is the core of what we do?
Do you think that veil is going to become thinner and thinner until it's non-existent?
I don't know if it'll ever be non-existent. Well, maybe over a very long period of time, but it's definitely getting thinner. I'm observing it, all the time. There's no other way I could take people who've never meditated a day in their lives and have them in this state sometimes in just 10 minutes, And I'm not doing the state for them. I'm giving them the words to say, and I am holding space for them, but they are awakening themselves. You can't awaken someone else. It's an inside job. You can give them the tool and help them go through it, but they do it themselves.
Why is meditation so important?
Meditation or practices like invocation are important because they let you be yin. We in America here and most Western countries, it's a very yang world. It's all about accomplish, act, do, just go. And that's not healthy. That's not how nature works. Nature rests as much as it acts. And meditation or just laying on the ground at the park or something, you've got to take that passive resting time to balance it out. And also, you will not experience the subtleties of this incredible universe inside yourself, the spirit world, if you're constantly doing things in the outer world. So meditation will allow you the space to explore those inner worlds, which actually are the juiciest thing to explore, far more than even the most beautiful place on earth, in my experience.
So meditation is basically grounding us?
There are so many forms of meditation. They do so many different things. There are some meditation practices that do ground. There are some that do exactly the opposite, that can take you out into celestial space.
Wow.
I've encountered a lot of clients and friends who are space cadets. They're naturally so spirit, it's all they can do to stay in their bodies. They need a meditation practice that grounds them to the earth, something that's more shamanically focused. Other people, like the way I was in my younger years, where I was just so locked into the physical that I couldn't get to the spirit world, they need a path that blows open those doors and lets them get out into the spirit world. So there's infinite varieties of meditation and lots of different ways of doing it depending on a particular person's needs.
Would you suggest that children in today's society, with all the peer pressure that they have, that meditation would be a good idea for a young person?
Yeah, and talking about kids, I mean, the kids I'm encountering are so much more awake already than us adults are. One of the ways I know the golden age is happening is these kids I'm seeing are so together and they're so conscious, and they're just at a higher vibrational level when they come in the first place. So they're going to be our saviors. They're going to be teaching us. So,
wow.
But with that said, yes, if you give them a meditation that's age appropriate, if you just tell the kid, when you're feeling stressed, the simplest meditation in the world is just to pay attention to your next breath. Just let the breath come and go and just give your full attention to the sensation. For those few seconds, you will not be thinking because you have one point of attention. It's either on that breath or it's in your head. And each moment you spend in an experiential awareness that isn't mental is a moment when you've just rejoined with your real source. So teaching them even something that simple, just pay attention to the next breath or two, and it will calm you down, can be real helpful. You want to give them a meditation that's appropriate for their age and for their particular disposition, of course.
So the old saying, stop and smell the roses, is very important.
Yeah, I do that every day. I've got flowers in my backyard. I go smell them, and
so do we.
I mean, it transforms me.
Yeah,
these scents are just amazing. They create a shift in the body immediately.
I've got to be honest with you. Before I started doing this show some 24 years ago, I used to listen to people and say, "All right, woo-hoo, you're out there." But over the years, I have learned so much, and I have a new appreciation for life. And I love having people like you on the show who share that, who want to help people, who want this to be a better world to live in. And I think that more and more people, like you said earlier, are having this awakening.
Yes. And with as many guests as you have, you must be seeing evidence of it all over the place.
I am. I truly am.
Yeah.
And I like you. I love my job. I get to speak to 4 of the most interesting people in the world each and every day, Monday through Friday. And the entire goal of this show, and I'm sure there's other show hosts who feel the same, is to make a positive difference in one life each night.
That's beautiful.
That's what it's all about, my friend, and that's why I'm so happy that you were with us tonight, and I want to thank you so much. Do me a favor, come back and speak with us again.
I'd love to. Just let me know when a good time is.
All right. Benjamin, nice knowing you, and keep the great work up, and I hope that you continue doing the great work you're doing, because I've got a funny feeling you, sir, are making a difference in many lives.
Well, I'm doing the best I can. Thank
That's
you.
all
You
can
too.
do. Benjamin, take care of yourself. Let our listeners know how they can find out more about you, as well as how they can participate in your shamanic ceremonies.
Well, the best way for all that is just to go to astroshaman.com. That's AstroShaman.com. And everything I do is there. And if they want to learn more about this invocation technique, at the top of the homepage sidebar on the right, there's a little purple banner. It says Heal and Awaken Invocations. Click that. It'll take you to a page that has all that information for free. And, of course, I make my living doing astrology and shamanic healing and the awakening activation process and more. All that information is on the site as well. So if people are vibing with me, that's how they can go to learn more.
Thank you very much for your time. Great meeting you, and I look forward to the next time you and I meet here in the X Zone. Until then, keep the great work up.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye now. X Zone Nation, my guest this hour has been Benjamin Bernstein. What a guy. www.astroshaman.com. That's www.astroshaman.com. I'll be back on the other side of the news at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. The X Zone is a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, and we come to you Monday through Friday from 8 p.m. Eastern until midnight, right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Rob McConnell. I'll be back on the other side of the news. Don't go away.